to be remote, Senator Westman.
And we are now live.
Damn, she got COVID.
No.
Okay.
Okay, this is,
He got looks like he's got something.
all right, so it's Senate Appropriations, and we have, this is until Friday, it's our crossover deadline, and needless to say, we have been hit with a lot of bills that carry appropriations. And so we're gonna have to crank through these as fast as we can. And the first bill that we're taking up is S91, which is an act relating to our parent-child center network. And we took testimony when we had our public hearing, and we had folks from the network, and they were talking about supporting the appropriation that's in the bill. And there's ongoing as well as a one-time appropriation. So setting aside the money, this is what this bill is intended to do, is bring our sort of our eligibility and our the service deliveries and services delivered through this structure sort of up to date. So if you want to, Senator Hardy, we're happy to have you. I think you'll not be surprised with our amendment.
Yes, I expect your amendment. Well, first, thank you for having me. This is a bill that your own Senator Westman has was the lead sponsor on, and Health and Welfare took it up, and we made some changes to it. But as you said, Senator Kitchell, it's really trying to bring the language up to date on what's going on with the 15 parent-child centers and create a structure that aligns their work better and also provides really lays out their the structure and the requirements for their work to get everybody consistent across the state. It also creates one master grant that would be split between all of them. There's already an appropriation, and there would be the bill requests an additional ongoing appropriation on top of it, and as you said, one-time $3.7 million. There is also a structure in the bill that would ask for the secretary, or I think maybe we have it as the commissioner of DCF to sort of let us know how much it would cost to increase the appropriation based on the New England Employment Cost Index. And this was something that Nolan can speak to it a little bit more from JFO, which seemed to be more consistent with the type of expenses that parent-child centers have, which are mainly, like most things in human services and education, driven by labor costs. It would not require that the appropriation be increased by that amount, but it would set up a structure so that we know how much it would be. So that is the basic structure. There are some requirements for delivering services and meeting national standards for the work that parent-child centers do, and it really professionalizes the parent-child center network in a way that they haven't been in the past. So there's a lot of policy in the bill that's important, and then of course there's the funding part of the bill, which is equally as important, but I understand this committee may have other ideas for it. So that's all I have, unless there are questions.
I don't think so. You're not going to be surprised. We're not doing appropriations at this point in the process. We did ask the agency for comments on the bill, and their comments actually align with concerns that we have. And that has to do singling out one entity for what would have been your increase if it were funded. Because as you've just heard, we have contracts and other providers all over the place, whether it's youth services or whether it's some of our other programs, whatever we do with choices for care. And the agency was concerned about on what basis would you do that for one calculation, or in all fairness, should we not be doing that for every entity providing really important services to families and vulnerable Vermonters? So what we have done, just like I think Choices for Care and other places, there's been a desire to have a guarantee of an annual inflator. And that gives temporary comfort because we notwithstand those provisions fairly routinely in order to get to a balanced budget. So what we have here for the committee, did you pass it out?
Yes.
It's basically to do two things, one of which is we'll deal with the money and see what we can do in terms of funding up parent-child centers. And I don't think anybody here is not familiar with their work or hasn't visited their parent-child center or centers. In fact, some of us really fought hard to keep that reach up contract in place. We didn't succeed with parents, with the parent-child centers. So what this does is deal with the two sections, one of which is creating the precedent of identifying certain provider entities from getting what would be your increase if we were to fund it, and the other is simply putting the money request on our list to be considered as part of our overall priority setting for FY 2023.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you will see, maybe assuming that Health and Welfare Committee passes it out, we went over a bill this morning, H 153, I think it is, that deals with choices for care and community-based services and creating a report on and a study on how to have a consistent process across the board for setting rates, specifically Medicaid rates, but also these other community-based services. So I think that in the future, having some kind of consistency would be helpful.
I agree with you because there's not, for adult day, for example, which would be part of your choices for care. The way in which that rate got set, I know how it was set. I helped set it, and it was taking general fund, it was going unmatched. How much could we free up and what could we match? And that's your new rate.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with anything other than what was the amount of money that you had to work with for the match. And as the level of care required by people participating in this has increased. And I don't know if any of you've been to your adult days, but they're providing foot care, they're bathing, they're, Medicaid, et cetera. They're providing, it started out sort of a social structure, and now it's really providing much more intensive kinds of care for people staying in their homes. So, and it has no rational basis other than, well, that was how much general fund, how much can we match, and that's it. So I can see why there might be a desire to begin to get more rational in terms of how we reimburse recovery centers. Probably is going to be another example. They're old. The agency's got, I don't know how many grantees, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
So while we'll anticipate that other bill coming in,
Something to look forward to.
bill, and this is the Senate bill. So could I have a motion? And our clerk is here and
Absolutely.
okay, and he's got his pen in hand.
Ready to jump.
So I would have a motion on the amendment first.
I make a motion that we approve the amendment.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay.
Senator Ballard. Senator Baruch. Yes. Senator Nitka.
Yes.
Senator Sears.
Yep.
Senator Starr.
Yes.
Senator Westman.
Yes.
Yes. And then I need a motion to move the bill favorably as amended. Senator Baruch made the motion,
I'll second.
seconded by Senator Starr.
Senator Ballard. Senator Baruch. Yes. Senator Nitka.
Yes.
Senator Sears.
Yes.
Senator Starr.
Yes.
Senator Westman.
Yes.
And Senator Kitchen.
Yes.
601 on both, unless you want to post the vote.
No, I don't think so. I know it's pro tem schedule. Let's see. Are you here for any others while you're in here?
I'm not, I can speak to the child out, or the interstate combat pact briefly. I'm not prepared to, but if you have questions, that was in my committee. If you want me to, I can say.
As long as Senator Sears, have you had involvement with S 72? You're muted.
No, but I have, we did the original we've done updates to the interstate compact over the years. So I'm fairly familiar with it, but I didn't have any involvement in this particular update.
So since you're here and you've got to leave, and we have Senator Hardy, I'm going to exploit the moment. And although she's probably not the reporter, or are you?
No, Senator Lyons is the reporter.
We've been known to move bills up pretty quickly. Sure. While you're here, do you want to give us
Madam Chair, before we do that, who would report the bill and the amendment?
Senator Westman? In terms of S 72.
Yeah, so it's a long bill, but it is a compact, so we made no changes to it. It is what is required to be a part of this compact. One of the areas of urgency is that if we are among the first 35 states to adopt the compact, then Vermont gets a seat at the table for developing the rules. So we're looking to be number 14 because that's our state's lucky number when we want to be New Hampshire.
I think that's very compelling.
There you go. But it is a really lengthy compact that talks about obviously the interstate placement of children, especially in homes or in institutions, and what the rules are and who does what. And Trissy Casanova is an expert on it and can tell you any of the details you want. Nolan is on the screen. I'm not sure that I think the fiscal impact is fairly small.
It's very small. It's just annual dues are estimated to be between 9,000 and 14,000. Currently, right now, we pay 6,500.
Yeah.
This compact has been in place for decades.
Yeah, since the early 1960s, and this is updating it for the first time since then. They started updating it in 2007, I believe. So it's gotten delayed because of the pandemic, like everything. But apparently, it's much better, and there are much clearer rules and duties of which state does what, the sending state versus the receiving state.
And I would imagine that, Nolan, the member states' annual dues, that would just come out of the DCF budget. The 6,500, I was sure, is part of their base budget now.
That would be my assumption.
Okay, so that's the reason it came here, I guess, because that's all it is really putting into our law the requirements of being a member of the compact.
Exactly, and even in the areas that we thought we wanted to tweak the language, we were told no, that if we did, that we couldn't be part of the compact. So we didn't make any changes. We passed it as.
All right.
Can I just say something to Senator Sears? Senator
Yeah,
Sears, check
In addition.
page 27 with regard to QI.
Page 27.
Yes,
Qualified immunity.
Oh, yes, I
defense,
noticed that too.
and indemnification.
right.
They shall be immune from suit and liability.
The commissioners on the interstate compact.
Yeah, there are errors that occur and
Mhm.
they go after whoever they can.
And each state gets a commissioner. Trissy is ours, and she was on the executive committee last year. She's rotated off.
Does she work for DCF?
She does, and she makes the determinations of out-of-state placement. So she would be, this compact is basically describing her work.
So I don't think there's really a minimal fiscal impact. This is something that we need to do in order to maintain membership in the compact. And I think we probably just need to move it out and have a motion to move it favorably, if I could have one.
as a co-sponsor of the bill, I'll move that we report it favorably.
All right, and then a second by Senator Nitka, who's probably used the compact.
Many, many times.
Yeah. So, our clerk is ready to go. We have a motion to move the bill favorably by Senator Sears, seconded by Senator Nitka. And clerk will call the roll.
Senator Ballard. Senator Baruch. Yes. Senator Nitka.
Yes.
Senator Sears.
Yes.
Senator Starr.
Yes.
Senator Weston.
Yes.
Senator Kitchen.
Yes.
Okay.
All right,
Great, thank you all.
Thank you.
Good luck with everything.
now we need a reporter. Do you want to report the bill, Senator Sears?
Yes, I'd be happy to.
All right, thank you. All right. Yeah, now. They all were so simple.
And we do have Abby Shepherd with us on S214.
Okay. Are there any others on this list, Dick, that we should move?
No, I think it's fine.
Okay.
I think it's fine. Rest of them I can live with. If I'm not here to vote on them, that's okay.
You know, the one thing that I just want to raise, and that's in the governor's proposed, is around dispatch. And I don't know what committee is taking it off. There's money in the budget to sort of set up these regional dispatch centers. I don't have a sense of what the data show relative to how much are coming in 911 versus how much are police dispatch, or what the volume is. We've heard from the EMT community concerned that
Yeah.
you're going to regionalize it, but all you're doing is doing the upfront and after, and then how you support it ongoing has yet to be determined.
I'd be glad to try to meet with Commissioner Sherling and whoever else on, well, I'd need to meet with him on his budget anyway, and on the dispatch issue and better understand.
Well, do you know, is there a policy committee that's taking up the issue of dispatch? Is government operations? I mean, we've
I don't know.
had that battle when Keith Flynn was here and we moved it to 2. Now it's not right. I know from talking to Roger Marcoux that, you know, there've been, and I think the commissioner said this as well, lots of studies on how dispatch should be organized. It's like, is anybody gonna, any of the policy committees spending any time on this? Is government operations, or I'm sort of like, this proposal has major implications, and I'm just wondering.
But shouldn't it be transportation? You do.
No. It should be GovOps.
Well, it could either be GovOps, I mean, judiciary could handle it, because a lot of emergency public safety.
Well, then judiciary.
Why don't I talk to Jeanette?
Well, that, you know, that's.
If you would do that, please, because it does seem, I mean, in some ways, perhaps this is a way of saying, I know right now some towns are paying for their dispatch, other towns are getting it for free through public safety. They would, of course, like to get it free. Public safety wants to divest itself of this function. I don't know if the budget assumes any savings that we should, anticipate. Probably not. And then what are the options for ongoing funding other than probably, and I think the league has taken a position on this because they see that this in fact would be a cost that would probably end up for towns, which some towns are paying now. Some towns are paying now.
Well, I'm happy to talk to Jeanette and decide which committee wants to take it up after I make sure my warranty is taken care of. Evidently, it's expiring if I don't take action right away, and they're never going to call me again.
Oh, well, I get right on it.
You wanna check that out good, Dick, because they call all the time with them kind of messages.
Yeah, I know. I was so relieved when they said they wouldn't be able to call me again because this is my final notice.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so, we will go then to, timeshare projects. And that's Senator Westman and Abby Shepherd. And I don't know if did your original bill call for, increasing the per parcel payment?
No, but
Now-
the only section that deals, this is a strike all bill. And the only section that deals with timeshare is Section 8. And what they did is I had proposed a solution and they did a study. So the only thing section that relates
Finance them.
even closely is Section 8.
So who's the reporter from finance?
Senator Hardy.
Senator Hardy? Oh, well, go get her again.
She's just here.
Want me to pop over? Yeah.
Oh my God, I should have exploited the moment.
You thought you were
I
exploiting.
thought I did.
Yeah.
You underexploited.
You asked if she had anything else here.
So I'm gonna have to, if we agreed with this, we're gonna have to take that 800,000, or I'm gonna have to go back and say, you've gotta start finding some revenue here to start funding. Some of,
This bill doesn't have the appropriation, and we would have to adjust the budget if we agree with it.
They want how much for
they
this?
wanna increase the parcel reimbursement that are paid from towns, number 7. From $1 to $12.
It's actually from 950 to 12.
It says 850.
Yeah, it's 850, it's 850 in another section, plus this one, 950, I think that increases 950 to 12.
We shouldn't have let you go.
I guess not.
All right, I didn't know that you were now in, timeshare.
Timeshares, which is, it's been changed quite a bit, Senator
Well, that's
Westman.
what Senator Westman said. He came in with just one section and you've blown it up.
Yeah,
And the reason we have it is because you want to reimburse the towns, which then reduces revenues that we have available to balance the budget.
yeah, I'm trying to cause as much discombobulation as possible for all of you. I'm sorry about that.
Gee.
Okay, do you want me to just
So,
go through what?
sure, we've got this.
This is our, yes, this is good.
So if you want to run through, but I think probably we're getting it because of the exchange on your per parcel.
The per parcel payments, yes. So this started out as a bill about timeshares, and the reason it changed so much is because one, it's really the way that timeshares are valued is super complicated. We kind of got into a big black hole about that. So the main thing about timeshares is that there's now a study, a report back to us from the Commissioner of Taxes with recommendations on how to value timeshares.
It went from a solution to a study.
Yeah, which is a really typical move, I think, but it was really, we kind of went down a big
Well, look what
rabbit
you
hole.
did. You started with one thing. You don't even get that. You get a study. You get 8 more sections in a bill for 800,000.
Well, the reason there's a connection here,
And Senator Westman, you've got to get in here.
I meant to talk to you about this, Senator Westman, but you're not here today, so I couldn't find you in time. But
I pretty much knew what was happening.
the towns, these are complex properties to value, and many towns have other complex properties to value. For example, Senator Brock has a town that has a dam that's difficult to value.
I have dams all the
Yeah,
time.
they're dams. My town has a big digester. One of my towns has a big digester that's difficult to value. So towns have very difficult properties. They're complex properties to value, including timeshares as part of it. And that's how it sort of morphed into this. And the state we had the tax commission last year had made a recommendation that we create a statewide program that would assist towns with complex valuations. Because these are often litigated, often towns get into the situation where they have something that's contested, they get into litigation, it becomes expensive. Often the town will just back off.
I'm the poster child, because I actually
Dam,
funded
the reappraisal of the Connecticut River dams
Mhm.
that were owned by TransCanada. And every single one of the appraisals were litigated.
Yep.
But we ended up giving PVR. They had to contract with an entity that specializes in these properties. Because it's not only the dams, it's the flowage rights, it's the reservoirs and so forth.
Yeah.
So there's, so this has been an ongoing source of grand list protection, so.
Exactly, so this would create exactly that, a statewide program that would be available to parcels in towns that would be
All questionable property.
based, ones that are complex to value, and they would create rules to determine, but it's based on a parcel, not a town, so it's not like you would say, oh, Middlebury qualifies, it would be a parcel in Middlebury that would qualify for it, because it's a complex value.
It's the subject of taxation,
Exactly.
not the location.
And the state has skin in this game because this involves the education fund. So if properties are undervalued because towns are worried about the litigation impact, they're gonna back off, and then properties will be undervalued, and the education fund will not get as much revenue as it needs.
That's where they're the catch-22, because if they can agree with something that's lower, and the tax department said you've underappraised, then they're gonna have that coefficient of dispersion problem, and they're gonna be on the hook to make up the difference, so.
If I might jump in, that's what happened in the town of Cambridge. The assessments on these timeshare units went from 105 million down to 45 million. And in the appeals process, if the town continued to appeal past the last day of December, the town, if they lost in the appeal, was on the hook for the whole appraisal. So the town settled at the lower value, which hurt the ed fund and hurt the town, but the town didn't want to didn't feel they could
They
take the risk.
settle at too low a rate, the state can come back in and say that was too low a settlement and you owe more.
Right.
And it was done to avoid sweetheart deals between towns and specific pieces of property, so it creates a real, anyway, we understand the problem very
Okay,
well.
so that's how we got to this from the timeshares, because as Senator Westman is talking about, his example is timeshares. So this was a recommendation of the tax commission last year.
Yeah, I read
The
the
finance
report.
committee asked tax to come and give us a proposal. So this is based on the proposal that the tax department made in a report to us and the tax commission. It creates the statewide program that it doesn't create it immediately. We ask that the Department of Taxes come back to us next year with a proposal for funding it. So it would not start till FY24. So there's no budget impact this year on the actual program because we delayed it till next year. It does increase the cap for reimbursements to towns from the ed fund from 100,000 to $1 million. This was also a number that the tax department recommended. It's revenue neutral because it ends up being a good to the ed fund, as we just discussed. And then it also has a provision that says if there are complex or unique appeals, they would go directly to the Superior Court and not to the administrative judges in tax because they're, or PDR, because they're not as they're too complicated for them. So that was also a recommendation from the tax department. Instead of one of their hearing officers. And then there are right now 2 fees, 2 per parcel payments. One is $1 and one is $8.50. And they're for slightly different but related purposes. One is for valuation and one is for a reappraisal or appraisal costs. And there's some language, they both right now are general fund payments. but the statute says that they're ed fund payments because they used to be, or at least the dollar fee. So what we did was combine the two fees. So the base payment would be $9.50, and we increased it to, I think we settled on $12. Is that what it says? Yes, $12. So $2.50 increase. This was sort of a compromise between the tax, the PBR came back to us with what had, again, this conversation about inflationary adjustments to things. The $1 fee, and if you want more details, Jill Remick is who you should talk to, or Rebecca Samaroff, but the $1 fee hasn't been increased since I think 1997, and the $8.50 fee, I think, since 2007. So this would be, or, 2015, is that it?
2018.
2018, okay.
Not my memory, it's right here on the sheet.
Oh, sorry, thank you. This is the first time I'm seeing this or reading it, by the way. This summary, not the bill.
Do you have a definition of a timeshare?
There is a definition in statute of a timeshare, and I think that this cross-references the timeshare definition. And one of the things that we, with timeshares, is that states do them all different, and so we were trying to find another state that had a good model that we could use, and we didn't have enough time to find it.
The people in J.
Yeah.
They told me they were gonna lose something like $400,000 in tax revenues if a bill like this goes through. And they have condos that they rent out, and they have some they sell. Well, I haven't been able to figure out, a timeshare is like a condo. It's a glorified apartment.
But you only have it for certain specified times a year, like
A week or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But the value of that property, why should that value of that property go down?
So apparently for timeshares, just to go down this rabbit hole a little bit with you, is that
the market softened.
the market is softened, people don't want to do them anymore. They would rather do Airbnb or condos. And so the whole like structure of timeshares has decreased in value. People are literally like abandoning their timeshares. And then, so even though the building itself does not change, the ownership of that building and the technical use of that building has changed. And there, if you look at it from a use value appraisal, their use value has gone down when you value them solely as timeshares. But it sort of gets into this whole morass of how you should value a building.
And that's what number 8 does.
Exactly. So that's why we asked for a report back to give us recommendations on it. But there are people who argue that you still should just value them like you value any other property, which is, it depends on how you think about it, whether you think about it as the building or as you think about it as the use of the building.
JP is happier than Hackwood.
With
the reduction, because now they aren't gonna pay the tax. And the town that has to supply the services is mad as heck. Because they're gonna be losing.
And the ed
all
fund
that.
is lost probably 75% of it was going to the ed fund anyway, not for municipal services.
Right. So this is the reason why Senator Westman introduced the bill, because it was happening in his district as well.
Jefferson ski area now.
Cambridge. So we couldn't come up with a solution to that specific problem, so we asked for a report, but we did this other stuff that's related to these complex valuations, and also the fees or the payments to the towns are to help them, first of all, value complex properties, reappraise and appraise complex properties, but also to have sufficient resources for reappraising the whole town, because as the pandemic has increased the value of properties in towns, a lot of them are hitting the 85% CLA, and they have to reappraise, and they don't have the money to do it. So this was the payments were supposed to address that. I realize that it is an increase to the general fund.
But let me ask, did we specifically make a statutory change to have those costs in section 6? It said they were paid out of the ed fund until 2018.
So there were two, and Abby is up here on the screen, so she could probably speak to this more because she's the attorney who drafted this, but the
I
section
mean, we're
30.
basically protecting the grand list to support the education fund. So, why did we change this did we actually change the statute in 2018?
Yes, Madam Chair, would you like me to jump in?
It was part of the deal to get rid of the transfer, and he had funded the whole sales tax.
Okay, all right. Stephanie's memory was, that was part of the
Wonderful.
grand bargain.
Yes,
Okay,
but there was a section in here where we didn't make the change in statute,
I
so it
see.
still said the ed fund, so part of this is cleaning that
I
up.
see, okay.
And combining the two payments, so towns have more flexibility with what to use it. So even if you're concerned about the increase, I would still recommend we combine them, the existing payments, so that towns have more flexibility, even if there's not an increase. But there was evidence that an increase would also.
All right, so collectively, we went from 950 to 12.
To 12, correct.
Okay. And how much do we pay then? How much does that add up statewide?
There is
It's around 3.3 or so.
note.
3.3?
Yeah, it's around there. That's the line item in the budget every year, somewhere between 3.2 and 3.3, I believe.
Yeah, there is a fiscal note. I don't know.
Fran would have done
I don't
it.
have it in front of me, because I wasn't expecting to do this bill today, but do you have that, Chrissy?
No, we can look it up. It isn't, I just was wondering what it was like.
I think it's 900,000 total. That's my recollection. Is that
The
right?
cost of the incremental change is just under 900,000. The base of the 950 fee annually
It's 3 million.
is 3.3-ish.
Okay, that sounds right, exactly. Yeah, that sounds
That's all I was asking is.
Okay,
I
sorry.
knew how much you were spending more.
Yes.
I didn't know on top of what.
On top of 3.3 million. So there you have it. That was how we got this long meandering process to this bill.
So what did the League of Cities and Towns come in?
Yes, they like this because this would give towns more support to do reappraisals and valuations, and also provide support to towns, especially the really small towns like in your district. And all of our districts have tiny little towns that just don't have sophisticated reappraisal operations and need the support. Like this giant digester, the largest one in the Northeast, is in the town of Salisbury, which is a small town.
Well, the town of Jay, where this would affect, they have professional appraisers come in.
Yeah, so the state would do this for contract with professional appraisers, and would also provide litigation assistance to towns in case they do get.
Really?
Yeah, that's the proposed program.
Did you talk with Burke at all?
Really?
And hear
Where's
anything
the-
from him?
No, I didn't hear anything. And I went to Burke County and
So if you look at the section 2, it creates a state appraisal and litigation assistance program. And
And we will get the price tag of that.
next year,
year.
yeah, they need to figure it out, and then
So just, it looks, my understanding of it is, it doesn't go into, it's created, but it goes away if we don't appropriate the money.
exactly, that's the way that Abby set it up, so that it wouldn't create a program with no funding.
And is there an estimated cost in terms of these complex commercial, I mean, we've had litigation with utilities over the appraisal of poles and wires to, obviously, to dams, to flowage rights, to whatever. Does this beg should we actually create, I don't know, should we be doing since we now have a statewide grand list, should we, for consistency, and I don't know, it begs the question about the extent to which we have statewide appraisal.
Yeah, and I think this sort of moves in that direction for complicated properties, is that towns can use the program if they need
Rich
to.
has something.
Yes, Rich.
As I understand it, I think the tax department is working with the utility companies to to come up with a statewide appraisal system for utilities. So I'm not sure what this language in the bill does around that.
Yeah, so you're right. We heard from Rebecca Samaroff, the state is working with utilities to do just that, Senator Westman. There is language in the bill that describes the types of properties that this program would help. And there was some question about whether we leave utility in it. We ended up, the finance committee decided we wanted to leave utilities in this program so that they wouldn't be stranded, towns wouldn't be stranded between programs while they're developing this
Complex
program.
commercial utility and other unique properties.
Right, and so there was discussion about utilities, but since many of these complex properties are utilities, we didn't want to have them left out of this one just to wait for the next one. So this could be updated if a utility appraisal program is created.
So it's laying it out as we've sort of had a informal one because we did fund the cost of the appeals on all the TransCanada, because TransCanada appealed every single of them. And they all the appraisals were upheld upon appeal. But it was millions of dollars difference between what they wanted, yeah.
Yeah, and I think, some of them, many of these are big corporations that are suing little tiny towns, and so they're kind of outmatched in a lot of ways, so.
They weren't that time, fortunately,
Right.
in terms of the ones on the Connecticut River, Connecticut whole dam system. I mean, the Vermont won on those.
We did. But the Attorney General and then the
Yeah.
towns had to have their legal counsel, so we called, it was done in terms of defending the grand list.
Yeah.
Because if any of these very valuable properties are underappraised and are therefore paying less tax, other property taxpayers are having to pay more.
Exactly.
Well, this kind of begs a much larger conversation. I know that the report was out. They issued a report in terms, and dams were only one piece of that report. So,
Yeah.
I guess we've gone through this. So Senator Westman, your bill now is greatly expanded. You're going to have a study telling you how to appraise. And I guess at this point, I need a motion to move the bill favorably, recognizing that we've got to put the 800,000+ on our side as an expenditure.
Make a motion.
Okay, Alice is moved.
Is it amended?
No, we're just moving it.
Oh, okay. Make a motion.
We're not amending it, we're just moving it favorably. It was obviously greatly
Great
amended.
deal of amendments.
I think it was a strike all.
Yes, it was.
So we have a motion to move the bill favorably, as amended by finance. And do I have a second? Second, Bruce, Senator Bruce,
Call the roll.
please call the roll.
Senator Ballard, Senator Baruth, yes. Senator Nitka,
Yes,
Senator Sears,
Yes, even though I was bounced out for a moment and missed a little bit of the ending testimony.
Senator Starr. Senator Starr.
Well, yeah, so
Senator West,
tell you
Yeah,
back on us,
Senator Kitchen.
according to Mike.
It's just a study
yeah.
on timeshares. It's just a study on timeshares.
And there is also the option not to fund whatever comes
Yeah.
back from the tax department. So,
It sounds like it's got to be dealt with one way or the other.
is this a Westman special?
Who does taxes?
Westman.
Who does federal government? I think,
like Rebecca maybe. Rich
Do
understands.
you know who has the general government function?
I'm gonna look it right up for you.
All right, well, thank you all.
Now,
Nice
wait a
spending the
minute.
afternoon with you. Any more bills?
Wow.
No.
Better go through the list here.
I can make
What about
stuff up
children's
if you
day?
want. Sure, I'll do that.
Thank you all. Well, if we need you, we'll be back.
You know where to find me.
Yeah, you know where you are.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
Thank you very much. General government, let's see here. Senator Baru.
Fine. Move.
Do you want to do it or you want Rich Westman?
I want
former?
Rich.
All right, Senator Westman will do it.
Okay, and
He's
Senator,
former tax commissioner. you
That's
know.
right.
I know, he should be in charge of that part of the budget.
He should, shouldn't he?
I move that we move that to Rich.
Yeah.
I'll gladly do the bill. I'm not taking the tax department.
thank you, sir. Senator Westman, will you take a peek into your inbox, because you're gonna have to hit the reply all to get this to the Senate Secretary's office.
Yeah, I've got it for 2 bills now, right?
Yes, you should see one in the inbox already, and I'm sending the other one right now.
Okay. As soon as we take a break, I'll do it.
Did the agency of public safety bill come out of GovOps or?
Yes, it did.
It did, okay.
Great. And for your reference, we do have Jim in the waiting, he's here with us now.
Oh, good. Well, let him come.
And as you know, Senator Campion popped by and he had a conflict, but he thought that Jim was more than capable to go over the bill with you all. And he could come in later today if needed, Senator Campion.
Okay. All right. So then why don't we move to
219.
219.
Okay, thank you.
We're right on time. 2 o'clock.
We are right on time. Fiscal note and a copy of the bill. Notes. Senator. Thank you.
I wonder if the public safety. Oh, Dick, are you leaving what time again?
3.
3?
I didn't hear the question. I'm sorry.
3. I'm gonna see if we can move up 155. We're moving pretty quickly here. So 155 is the creation of an agency of public safety.
Yep.
And so I'm hoping maybe we can get through 219 by 2:30 and then pick up 155 at 2:30, so you can be here to hear that.
That'd be good. Yeah, I'd like to hear it.
I thought so, and I'd like you to be here.
I do have to leave right at 3, but
Yeah, okay, I think it shouldn't take more than a half hour on S219.
I'll reach out to Senator White and
Okay, if you would.
let's
please.
counsel.
And so we have Jim Demaray, who's here,
He
and
is saying he's having difficulty unmuting. Let's see here. One moment. He wasn't okay. Let's see here.
is he here
He was.
in person?
I think he's trying to relog back in.
Is he in the state house or is he working?
He's gonna come back in. There he goes.
Do you know if he's in the building?
I'm trying to find out right this moment.
We need to really come in.
Stephanie, you've done some work on this, don't you, right?
I'm doing all, yeah. Is this only this bill only pertains to junior and senior classes and dual enrollment? Doesn't have anything to do with the whole religious thing?
It does, it sets standards
Oh, okay.
for those schools, basically around non-discrimination.
But dual enrollment is only available to the juniors and seniors, so that's
Oh,
piece that has a
that's
fiscal
what
impact.
that is. Yeah, it's pre-K kids.
Because what it does is allow the students that are attending those schools
The private paid students right now that are
Yeah.
honors that have access to enrollment would be able to access it.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what's happening.
I mean, the religious thing is right down to pre-K, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
So, well, Stephanie, since you looked at this, can you run through the fiscal impact of the dual enrollment piece, which seems to be where the money is?
Yeah, the dual enrollment impact means that the change that's in the bill would allow the dual enrollment program to open up eligibility larger than it is now. It's still juniors and seniors, but the private pay students, so there are 4 parochial religious schools that have junior senior classes that are approved schools. And then there's a handful of other independent schools that have junior senior classes that have a percentage of private pay and public pay. And so it's only the private pay that would be coming on from the independent schools and the religious schools. And so the estimate in the fiscal note, that's a universe of about 825 across the 2 classes, junior and senior, that would be newly eligible for dual enrollment. And the uptake rate on that is a little over 21% right now in the existing universe, so that we're using that same amount.
21% of 800.
Yeah, 825 or so students. And then multiplying that by the average voucher value, which is 840, which is a 3-credit course, you know, at the CCD tuition rate. And so that's the estimate, 150 total. Dual enrollment is a split funded program. Half is funded by the general fund, half is funded by the ed fund. So it would be a $75,000 impact on each funding source. It may be a little aggressive for the first year. We may not get the 21% uptake in the first year. But that's the best estimate we can come up with. I spoke with the director of the independent schools to try and assess how we could get at that private pay amount. The religious schools are pretty straightforward to do.
That would be like Rice, for example.
At Rice, there's St. Michael's in Brattleboro, there's Mount St. Joseph. Rice is the majority of the religious schools. It's like 220 of the 300 junior senior total.
So on page 9, if you look at that, when we wrote dual enrollment, first we had it that independents got none of the dual enrollment program. Then we came back the next year or 2 years later and we made it so that they got half. But we continued to exclude the parochial schools. And then we had testimony that we were going to have to change this, or we were going to be forced to by court order. And
we did change it, and then we got forced to by court.
right, and so that the House would never go along. So now we're basically striking out all of that attempt to advantage one sector of
The public pay at the independent schools can access the
Right.
private pay can't.
So, to my mind, this was long overdue, and we should have just been.
And the other thing that that's happened since dual enrollment, and that's senior year. And more kids are taking, actually dual enrollment take up is not as strong as it used to be, because a lot of the seniors are actually taking their senior year, first year at
Early
college, early
college,
college. So early colleges, and that's all, that is just.
So that's all ed fund, that's 100% ed fund. And the enrollment right now under the current structure has, for dual enrollment, the use of vouchers has basically leveled off at between, high 2,600, low 2,700 over the past, since 2017. It's been roughly there, and all the growth has been in early college.
I think this is absolutely fine. I think the real problem with dual enrollment that we haven't been confronting is every year it's become more and more uptake by women and less by male students. So now I believe it's 3 to 1.
Probably 70-30.
Something like that. And it's tough to know how to deal with that on a policy basis, because do you create a program then to treat essentially male students as minority?
I wish my son were here, because I was being interviewed and I was talking about, the fact that our male students, if you're looking at success in the more traditional educational environment, it's not great. And he chastised me for being, but I said, the data is there. I said, there was an article, failure to launch, looking at the data. And male students they do not respond to that seat-based didactic learning environment.
Yeah, really.
And so I'm glad made that same observation, but there is a real gender difference there.
Yeah,
Just like there
all
used to be
schools.
for math and science, and which is now closing, but I think maybe it's about 60% of student enrollment is female. And we're seeing the same percentage in medicine and law, so.
You'll be at all the schools. in the
So
same-
Jim, thank you, I'm glad you're back in, we've kind of
I
had.
do.
So now we know that what we're doing is really what we thought we were gonna have to do, relative to the court decision, and that is opening up dual enrollment option to students in those religious institutions. And according to Stephanie Barrett's estimate, based on current experience, it would be about a $75,000 cost to the general fund and the same amount to the ed fund for this new cohort of eligible dual enrollees. And then the rest of it is really around what else here? It is really around the court decision in terms of
So, yeah, for the,
placement across state lines and, okay, so is there anything else that carries a price tag? We've got the interstate compact on placement of children.
no, from my understanding of this bill, the only fiscal impact is the dual enrollment.
In terms of, okay,
Yeah, there's a declaration form that they have to sign,
Where's that?
and then I assume that AOE would process that out of their existing budget. Jim?
Yeah, it's a contract between the State Board of Education and the independent schools for accepting public tuition. And the AOE has to do a formal contract and they have to sign that. It's part of the approval process for the State Board in any case, so it's just an additional step in the process.
Yeah, they're basically certifying non-discrimination in order to get their money.
okay.
Yep.
And so the other one in section 2, which is interstate compact and the placement of children, those are for special, for children who need specialized educational programs.
So today, tuition can be used anywhere in the world, right? So you can go to Switzerland or California. This bill says no, the purpose of this program is as a substitute for public schools where they're not available in the state. So on that basis, we're going to say you can go across the border to bordering states with your public tuition or to the province of Quebec, except if you are on an IEP, 504 plan, or you're disabled, then you can go anywhere in the world with your tuition.
Except if you're on- Where is that section, Jim, please?
Yeah, that section.
You know, I mean, I do know Department of Agency of Education does educational placements. Is that what this is in section 2 here, on the placement of children?
So the section, just to respond to Senator Nicholas' question, it's on page 18, beginning on line 6. So what it does is restricts the use of public tuition outside of Vermont to the bordering states or Quebec, except if you're disabled or IEP or 504 plan.
So there was that case of somebody taking the classes in Europe, and we didn't have a legal way to say no.
Okay, so where is that on page 18?
Provide that.
Page 18, yep. I'm on line 6.
The public placing, child placing agency in the sending state shall have.
So line 6 says B, it's sub B. Hopefully we have the same.
I
We
must
can
be
find,
on a different, I must,
Page 18?
Page 18.
yeah.
Yeah,
You're trying to find the interstate compact or the,
line 6.
Line 6 says the public
No, you must have the wrong.
Yeah, I do.
Doesn't your line 6 say be an independent school in another state or?
No, mine does not. Mine says, mine's on page 18.
You might have had the one before it got swapped on the floor last week.
Yeah,
Oh,
here you go.
no wonder.
5.7.
I was on the wrong version. Okay, now I see it.
Okay.
So can
You
I
want
ask,
me to-
so, oh, go ahead, Jim.
Do you want me to take you through that language? Would that be helpful?
Well, on page 18, the independent school, is that the section you were about to address?
Correct, yep.
Okay, yes, go right ahead.
So just read through it. It says an independent school in another state or country that is approved under the laws of that state or country is eligible to receive public tuition if all of the following conditions are met. One, it's located in Vermont or state that borders Vermont or in Quebec, provided that an independent school not located in a bordering state or Quebec shall be eligible to receive public tuition if the student is on IEP, or the student is on 504 plan, or the student is disabled. And then the other conditions for these schools are they have to agree to comply with anti-discrimination laws that apply to their public schools in their state or country. And they can't use the tuition to support religious instruction.
Right.
So, so with regard to what is happening then, for a student who's in a tuitioning town, they have no high school, is this bill preventing them to go to a school that they presently might be attending that's not in one of our bordering states, and they're not a disabled, they may not be politically correct, not a disabled person? Is something being taken away from some of our Vermont students?
No, if you turn to page 25, there, section 16 is a transitional section. And it says that for students enrolled in the 2021-22 school year, or has been accepted for enrollment in the 22-23 school year by an independent school in another state or country that would not be eligible to receive tuition, the student still has the right to use public tuition at that school through graduation.
Your grandfathering in, but after that,
They're done. After that, they're done. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
I know a kid from Kirby went to a high school in California and had a special music program or something. So that wouldn't be possible.
No, it wouldn't be.
Not anymore.
That freebies over for those support.
Okay, other questions about this? So the money is the issue, which we knew is relatively modest on the general fund.
And it's pretty much the same as the cost estimate 5 years ago when we proposed to the House that we changed it.
So do we want to move the bill
Yep.
favorably as amended by education? All right, Senator Starr, seconded by Senator Brewer.
Yep. Can I just make one comment? I went to a Catholic high school, and quite frankly, none of the textbooks or any of the teaching could you escape from religious values and things that were in those books, in those classrooms. It was, I mean, it may be different now at school and time ago, but it was very, you couldn't have escaped from it. You had people there who were not religious, not of that religion, and they got the dose too.
Yourself included?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I was Catholic, but.
I read a great article written by a student who had gone to a Catholic school. It was called St. Patrick's and the Prospect of Hell. And it was talking about, the religious overtones in terms of you were learning from the glory of, so it was really cleverly written in terms of just a culture that was very much present, but it was.
I mean, it really was, in my case, I mean, I had Orthodox Jewish family next door to me, whom they had 4 children. I babysat for them all the time, spent time in their house, did all their dishes. They abided by all the principles of,
You need this.
real.
Yes, thank you. I know you got, I got
Jewish
that.
community. And when the ethics priest teaching ethics at my Catholic school said, well, those children, they aren't going to get into heaven. I said, what the heck? The strangest damn thing. Oh, one of their children had died very early, it was not stillbirth or something. And there was a discussion in the ethics class, goes, well, that child will not go to heaven because they, this and this and this and this, but this religion thing is crazy.
That was where I started to organize.
Yeah, I was like, this is nice.
Oh,
I was like, well, wouldn't God understand that
Yeah.
they were raised in a
Innocent.
different religion?
I think, Jim, we have really kind of drifted off into some of the members' recollections. You've triggered memory, and that we're probably gonna have to have therapeutic intervention before the end of the day.
But what I see in here though is, we say, oh, the money can't be used for any religious instruction. The fact is, it's all throughout every program in those schools.
Well, I think they got great.
Well, maybe they've,
I think
They have many more lay teachers now.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I would just note that point, if I could, that the Vermont Supreme Court case requires this restriction. So it may not be very practical. I can't comment on that, but it is required under the Vermont Constitution.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
I appreciate your being here. So we have a motion to move the bill favorably as amended by education and seconded, so I'll call the roll.
Senator Ballard, Senator Baruch, yes. Senator Nitka,
Yes.
Senator Sears,
Yes.
Senator Starr,
Yes.
Senator Westman,
Yes.
Senator Kitchen,
Yeah,
and I would be happy to report
okay,
this.
you should, your education. It's nice of you to volunteer before you were assigned.
See, isn't that a hallmark of my
Yeah,
career?
oh, it is.
He's just such a good
Yeah,
guy.
I know. Okay, so,
See, give me cookies and sandwiches, I'm very.
all right,
easy
so
work.
if we can move ahead and Senator White can come in.
Senator White and Cameron will be, I have them scheduled here at 2:30.
Great.
Do you want to take a quick 10-minute break before they get
You mean
here?
we're ahead already?
You are, it's 2:20.
Okay, so
Cafeteria still open?
why don't we take a break and go offline and we'll come back at 2:30 and Senator Sears, that'll give us time to go through S 155 before you have to
Okay.